Learn how to convert server-side PHP objects into standard JSON text string using the built-in JSON encode function. In this lesson, we want to look at where does server data come from in the first place. Up until now, we've been looking at JSON entirely from inside the web browser. But we want to look at situation where the data is fetched from the server. Often, data from server is usually created by a backend server language like PHP. So when a server pulls data out of a database, it turns that data into a PHP object. And to send that object across the internet to your JavaScript code, the server runs a built-in function called JSON encode method. So this instantly translates the PHP object into a clean JSON text string that any browser can easily read. So in this example, we want to look at an example that demonstrates how that can be done in PHP. And before I talked about the example, there are a couple of things I want to point out to us. Number one, if you look at my URL here, you can see that it's now totally different from what I used to have. And that is because formerly I was using a live server to preview what we have in our HTML. But since we are dealing with server side, we need a server in order to be able to run a server side code. And that is why this URL is unique. You can see localhost, which means I am using a server that can run PHP code locally. And that is why the URL has changed, so that you will be able to see the end result. So if you want to do this locally on your system, what you need is a local server that can run PHP code. So you can get maybe SAP, WAMP, or Laragon. In my case, I'm using Laragon. So once you have Laragon, SAP, or WAMP, or any of your favorite to install, then you need to move your file or your folder that contains your code inside the www folder, inside that PHP server. That is when you'll be able to run your program, as I'm going to show you in this example. So in my own case, my folder is already inside my Laragon www. So this is what I'm basically saying. So look closely at what I'm doing. So if I come inside my local disk, you can see Laragon. And if you open www, you can see my code. This is it. Live server example. So once your folder is moved inside that www, then you can add your files and then you'll be able to preview it in the browser. So if I refresh now, so this will still stick. Now, let's get into the real deal. So let's look at an example to do this. So now we've been using script tag, but this time around we want to use PHP tag, since this is a PHP environment now, and this is how you open and close tag in PHP. So inside our PHP, I want to make a variable, and in PHP, the dollar sign is what you use when you want to make a variable. So let me call it my obj, and the first thing is the new std class method. Then I want to make another one for name. I as well want to make another one for age. And lastly, I want to make another one for city, which is what I have now. Now, to use what I have been talking about, the JSON encode method, let's make another variable and call it my data. So this is where you call the method JSON underscore encode, then pass in your objects into it. And if I go ahead and refresh this, nothing is actually happening. Okay. Where is my body tag? I want to try and bring this out. Let me put it at the beginning of my code first and see if it will work from here. I want to see if there's an error. So let me try and inspect this. Oh, okay. Oh, I can see this is working. It's just a style problem because if you look at this part, you can see the code. So let me revert back to what I had before. I want to look at this. Okay. Now, if you look closely at what is currently shown, you can see name, age, and everything. It's actually not processing it, but instead it is returning my code, which means that something somewhere is actually wrong. Okay, let me try and change this to a PHP class, a PHP file rather, index.php. And let me refresh. Index.php. Just a second. Let me take this that I had before and then shift it up. And now I have discovered the problem. I have just set this JSON encode method and assign it to a variable. But in PHP, just like the way you always need a way to output whatever you get from the server in JavaScript, whereby you make use of document or get element by ID and inner.html to write your DOM. In PHP, you make use of echo to output your information. And so if I go ahead now and refresh, then you can see name, John, age 30, city, New York. Now, notice what just happened here. This JSON encode has transformed my raw folder, my raw code from the server into a JSON format. You can see the presence of the double quote. So this is what makes it JSON compliance. So this has been changed to a JSON server. So what we basically have here is that this example shows a backend script that creates a generic object container, assign properties to it, name, age, and city, and convert it into a JSON string using the JSON encode method. Finally, it uses echo to print the text string out, which is exactly what the browser receives when it requests this PHP. So let's quickly look at the breakdown of this code. My object equals to new std class. In PHP, std class is a built-in empty generic object template, and the $sign symbol is how PHP declare variable, like I said. So my object name equals to John is how PHP uses arrow operator to assign keys and value to an object using the way JavaScript uses dot notation. So this is how it assigns keys and values to an object. You can see it for age and for city as well. And this part, which is my data equals to JSON encode, my object, is the magic step. So the PHP engine takes the backend object and translates it into a standard JSON text string. And this part is what is echoing that out, that is making us to be able to see it in the browser.